Hi, I'm Chris Lee, and this is Virtually Speaking. Joining me today is Sekou Andrews, one of the hottest and most unique speakers in the business, a Grammy-nominated spoken word artist for his album Sekou Andrews and the String Theory. He is Forbes' de facto poet laureate of corporate America, and you can find him on the biggest corporate event stages in the world or delivering a tear-jerking standing ovation performance in Oprah's backyard for Maya Angelou and Barack Obama. A school teacher turned actor, a musician, a two-time National Poetry Slam champion, an entrepreneur, and the award-winning pioneer of the cutting-edge new speaking category, Poetic Voice, a new type of speaker and artist who seamlessly blends inspirational speaking with spoken word poetry, like an entertaining combo of Hamilton meets Ted. So please join me now with the incredibly entertaining and compelling Sekou Andrews. Well, hello, Sekou. Thank you for joining me today on Virtually Speaking. How the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm, even though we're in a pandemic, you can still feel good about life and the world, that we live in.
Hey, man, we gotta find the silver. If there has ever been a silver lining era of our lives, this is like mining and digging and excavating for the silver lining these days,
Yeah, but if you can find it and it's out there, there's a lot of things that we're going to learn about ourselves as businesses and as a society and as people, who we are, how we're relating to other people, how we relate to ourselves and the environment and our health. I think a lot of growth is going to come out of this period. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Absolutely. You just have to have that mindset that knows that and then seeks out those opportunities, because it is there.
Absolutely. And you're a guy who really, more than maybe anyone or most, definitely more than most, is able to really look inside an organization or a community or a group, and really understand where they're coming from. Your job really is to connect with the client or connect with the customer or connect with the person and see where they're coming from so you can bring that back out to them. Yeah. You're telling the organization's story to them. You're redefining it. You're a storyteller, but you're also an advocate for your customers and for your clients. And that's what's so amazing about you. Talk about customization. I mean, people love speakers who can customize. Can he customize? Can he collaborate with us? Well, nobody really does it better than Sekou, because really what you do is you talk to them about what they're looking at and what their problems are, what their new mantras are, what their new goals are and their new products or their new focus for the next year is going to be. And then you give that back to the audience. You reflect it back. How do you put it? You put it a lot better than me.
Well, I mean, so the style of speaking that you're talking about, as you know, is called Poetic Voice.
Yeah.
And Poetic Voice really is the seamless integration, seamless being the key word. It's the seamless integration of inspirational speaking and spoken word poetry. And so it's performance meets presentation. It's Ted meets Hamilton, if you will, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And so, like, if you think about, number one, if you just think about the power of performance and artistry, there's a high level of customization in my work. However, the experience of customization is much higher than the actual customized writing. And the reason is because Poetic Voice is anchored in art. You have I always say there's a lot of speakers that say they customize and it ends up being more like a Mad Lib version, right? I know my clients all the time, they feel that it's like they just inserted our client name here, they inserted our industry there, and we felt that. We could tell this was a canned speech.
It's inauthentic.
With our name inserted, right? Yep. Whereas with Poetic Voice, if you think about art, we all have, say, like a song that just feels like it's our personal anthem, like it was written, like Beyonce or Ed Sheeran or whoever wrote that song for me. You know what I mean? Literally, and we internalize it so personally. That's the power of art. And so if you apply that power to thought leadership, to business content, even if I don't write a single new word, the way that I'm expressing these thoughts on healthcare workers or cyber tech or apparel salespeople, it feels like, wow, this is spoken in a language that feels like it's speaking to me as the human being, and it's so personal. So that's the first level of personalization that exists regardless of what I write. But then I also do the poet in me. I'm a spoken word poet. So the poet in me loves writing. And I love then going and adding in content that's just, it's what I call the client bling. It's like, it's the shiny moments that throughout a presentation that just go ring, 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 this is you, ding, 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 this is about you,
Right.
But instead of doing it just in section A or doing it in the last 5 minutes, I weave it throughout the presentation. Right. So they continue to feel art and presentation, and they continue to hear content that is speaking to them as a human being and speaking to their particular industry.
Yeah, and it's so entertaining. I mean, it's just awesome to have a keynote speaker come on stage and really entertain, but also deliver the content, or advocate for the company, and really, give them what it is that they're hoping the audience is going to get from it. So you're really able to do that, but in such an entertaining way. Yeah. And it's not like you also have said. It's not like it's just a comedian coming up and doing comedy. It's not just a musician coming up and doing music, or a mentalist or a hypnotist or a magician coming up and doing their art. It's really more integrated, and it's, like you said, it's seamless. It's almost like it's just a speech, but it's a very entertaining speech. And it's cool how you choose the words. You're a wordsmith, and I've been talking to a lot of people lately about, the words we choose are everything, and they can change everything. How you're perceived, how you're loved, how you're received, how you're connecting with people authentically and emotionally and empathetically. It's just cool to see you do it, because you're the master.
Well, I mean, it's the age-old battle of what you say versus how you say it. And when I'm doing speaker training, I'm always telling people it's both. Yes, there are people that are like, wow, the way that you speak, I could listen to you just read the phone book.
Right.
And so there is that. Like, you want to be able to rock a phone book, and I want to teach you the techniques that help you to rock a phone book. But then
that's
I'm
awesome.
a poet. But my poet also. So the poet in me is saying, no. That I want to also focus on the content. I always say good oration should live strong on the page and come to life on the stage. So the way I look at it is, if you have something that I'm listening to, if I go back and look at that script, I should go, wow, this is amazing. But then when I'm watching it, I should receive just enough of the experience of the content to go, that was amazing. But I should also hear enough to make me go, I want to go back and read that. I want to go back and hear that again, So it should come to life in a way that feels real time. It feels in the moment. It feels like it's so connected and visceral that I want to go back and reconnect to it. And I think, again, going back to the power of art, like you said, there's a musician or there's a comedian, but with Poetic Voice, it's designed to be seamless, so that one moment you feel like you're listening to a speaker. Then the next minute, then you're like, wait a minute, is he rhyming? I didn't even catch that. And then the next minute you're like, oh wow, this feels like stand-up. And then before you can lean back and check out, you're like, okay, I got what this is. Oh, wait a minute, now this feels like theater, And so it keeps you leaning in. Every time you want to check out, it prevents you as an audience member from getting ahead of me. And I think that's what happens with a lot of speakers, is that they get up there and it's like, hey, here's my 5 steps to this, or my PowerPoint that says these are my 3 steps. And you go as an audience member, okay, got it. I can check out and check Facebook.
Right. And
what I'm trying to do is, every time you think you can check out, it's like, oh, wait a minute, something new is happening, or there's a new way this is being delivered, or this is, I thought that this was affecting me on a business level, but now suddenly this is making me think about my mom, or this is making me think about my daughter. And now I'm having this human experience, and wow, where are we now? That's what I'm trying to create, whether it's a 60-minute and a 90-minute keynote, or it's a 15-minute, TED style talk or something. It's always the human aspect around the business content that I'm trying to create.
Absolutely. And the style, the poetic voice style of yours, is something that I think is becoming more popular, more part of, our zeitgeist, our world that we live in. I think it was Kendrick Lamar who just did the Kobe Bryant commercial for Nike. I thought of you when I saw that. I said, oh man, that Sekou should have done this. And it's really great, and it's rhyming, but it's telling a story. It's making a point. It's giving you things to take home with you and think about. And then there's the guy on America's Got Talent who currently right now is, a finalist, who I thought of you. I'm like, this is Sekou. And he was even a teacher, like you were. You were a teacher. He's a teacher.
Yeah.
and just telling a story in this really entertaining way that might have some rhyming, but definitely has some timing.
Look at you. Hey, stay away from my job, Chris, all right? Let me do my job, you do your job, all right? I do the rhyming, buddy.
All right, yeah. And I tell you, when you do, it's amazing. And it really must be fun for the audience to realize that this is what's happening now. When you start getting into it.
A big part of my mission that has driven the past 20 years of my career. I've been a full-time poet for almost 20 years now. My last job, as you know, was the elementary school teacher. I taught 5th grade before I quit to become the, anomaly Loch Ness monster mermaid out there and known as the full-time poet, and successful full-time poet at that. And a big part of my mission that has driven this past 20-year career is to help create a more commercially viable industry for the art form of spoken word, so that when you think poet, you don't think broke, right? When you think poet, you don't think, yeah, but what's your job?
Right.
When a kid says, I want to be a spoken word poet to their parent, they understand that there is a possible trajectory for that now, right? And so I think things like Brandon Leaks on America's Got Talent and Kendrick's commercial, are continue to be great ways of kicking down those doors. That's literally what my career has been about, is saying the new target, that's what made me create Poetic Voice. I was dismissed in the business world. Everyone was saying spoken word belongs at our holiday party, maybe
at a coffee shop,
at our Christmas party. You know what I mean? Certainly at the coffee shop. That's the only place they could conceive it. But when they thought, how could this be involved in our business? It was only at the Christmas party. It was never on the main senior leadership main stage.
Right.
I was the one that kept telling the industry, you're wrong. This deserves to be on your biggest stages, and it can have the biggest impact for your actual business objectives.
Yeah.
And so that's what my career as a poetic voice has proven. And that's why I'm doing the biggest stages in the world now for the large companies. But I'm also doing a lot of media stuff. And I'm also Nike was my first client, so I have tons of Kobe Bryant pieces and LeBron James pieces. And, I was in
Where do you live, in LA?
Years ago. I'm in LA. Yeah. And so as a matter of fact, I was in this powerful dichotomy at the beginning of this year because as I told you before, I have an album that I released
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, it's an album.
A Grammy-nominated album.
It's a Grammy-nominated album. We did it with a symphony orchestra out of Europe called the String Theory, an amazing kind of neoclassical orchestra. And I'm all about setting targets. Where is spoken word not shining where it should? Well, spoken word poets have not won the Best Spoken Word Grammy category in 30 years. It always goes to audiobooks. So meaning we're always competing against giant publishers and celebrities and presidents, right? So poets can never compare. So I just felt like that's a shame. Poets deserve a place at the table. I released this album. I submitted it for the Grammys. I campaigned my butt off. And I actually got the nomination. I was beat by a small local act. You might have heard of her, named Michelle Obama. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yeah, Becoming.
So yes. I got beat by Becoming, which is, if you got to get beat, Michelle Obama's a great competitor.
It was only #1 in the world for like a year straight. So.
Exactly. It's like I got beat by the begillion selling best autobiography in the galaxy kind of a deal.
Right.
So I was fine with that. But I say that to say that in the beginning of this year, right before the pandemic hit, in January, I was both in that elated place of celebrating this nomination, being at the Grammys, and then, of course, as you remember, that was the day that Kobe Bryant died.
Oh my God, that's right.
So we were literally in the Staples Center, like surrounded with Kobe's jerseys and everything.
My goodness.
And all of us trying to figure out, how do we celebrate this accomplishment for ourselves and yet mourning this incredible loss? It was just this powerful place to be. And that's the kind of juxtaposition that I try to bring to every presentation, which is why I can end up leaving people going, how the hell am I crying at 8 a.m. at a tech conference? This never happens. It's because I'm always trying to bring those experiences to my presentations, Would
you possibly be willing to do a little something from that album or from your stage show for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me, well, here's what I'll do. So this album, we have 3 singles that we released.
Okay.
One is called Good Vibes, and that was the sort of a documentary style video that was the actual recording of the first song that we did all together with the orchestra here in LA. The second was called The Music Movement, and it's a celebration of the power of music, which is also a cool story because when I wrote this piece celebrating the power of music 4 years ago, something, I had a new manager, and I remember telling my manager, I just wrote a piece about the power of music, and I have this vision of me performing this piece on the Grammy stage. And I want you to see if you can go try to, see if we can have me be like the first spoken word poet to perform with all these musicians on the Grammy stage. And that was, 4 or 5 years ago, that vision. And then, as the universe has it, like, it wasn't quite the Grammy stage, but it was a Grammy nomination, which was connected to that piece.
Which could lead to you coming back in the future and
That's
performing
right.
as well.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And so we shot that video in Berlin, which is where the orchestra is from. And then the third piece we shot here in LA, and it's called Love Says, and it's a social justice piece that really was, it was an interesting, powerful story because we shot it with a production team, a studio here in LA, and they were like, we want to shoot this video, we want to have it be just about you and the power of your words and this powerful message that you're giving. And so everyone was really behind it. They really felt like this was sort of like the world needed to hear it.
Right.
And then the week of the video shoot, we were going to shoot it on a Friday, they hit me up and they were like, we're over budget, we're having budget problems, we think we should postpone. But after talking, we said, you know what? This piece is so powerful. It talks about all the issues that we're dealing with today. It was inspired by the Eric Garner case, and it was inspired by the story of West Side Story and the power of love reaching across different, boundaries. And it culminates in the words, "I can't breathe." And we were just like, we got to get this out, right? Wow. And so we were like, let's just go ahead. We'll figure the money stuff out, and we'll shoot the video. Mm-hmm. We shot it that Friday. Thank God we did. That Monday, the world shut down. We would not have been able to shoot that video. That would not have been as big of a deal, except for a month later, George Floyd gets murdered to the words, "I can't breathe." And now suddenly "I Can't Breathe" is echoing and haunting America again. And we have this poem that speaks to exactly that topic.
That's
so
insane.
we were just sort of like blowing our mind that it was like, what if we had not shot this? And so we rushed and we released it and we got it out. We partnered with Color of Change, which is a social activist organization for racial injustice. And we got it on Fox News, we got it on ABC, we did interviews and all this stuff. And it was this powerful statement for the power of love. So, and now I actually, as it relates to the meeting planning industry, again, Poetic Voice is seamlessly weaving the poetry throughout presentations. So just this past week, I did a virtual keynote for an organization about diversity and inclusion. And in that 35, 40-minute keynote that was done virtually, I wove this poem, Love Says, into it. So I'll give you the standalone piece now.
Okay, please, thank you.
Love says some stupid stuff sometimes, don't it? I mean, like love says, love will set you free. Really? Love, you just gonna free everybody? Love says, love makes the world go round. And you're like, come on, love, you're not gonna give that to physics? You're just gonna claim that? Love says, love conquers all. I mean, can you believe the ego on this emotion? So all these attacks, all this malice, so much injustice in the world, while love was barely helpful during the breakup with my last girl. Because love says hateful stuff. Like, if you love something, let it go. If it doesn't return, it was never yours to be. I mean, that's just cold, love. You're going to do your boy like that? Love says harmful stuff like, no, you're not too drunk. Go ahead and text her. And all of this has brought me to the uncanny conclusion that love is a hater. No, think about it. Many of the same neural circuits in our brains that light up from feelings of romantic love also activate from intense hatred. So it is a scientific fact that love is a hater. And to that, love says, you are absolutely right. Love says the greatest trick hate ever pulled was convincing the world it actually exists. Love says there is no such thing as a hate crime. No, there are only love crimes mangled into hate crimes. The cop who hates crime suffocates an unarmed man for the love of safety. The crip who hates bloods splatters it across the playground for the love of gang. The soldier who hates terrorists slaughters insurgents for the love of country. The terrorist who hates blacks bombs a church for the love of race. The school bully who hates an abusive mother smashes a classmate's skull against a bathroom mirror to earn the love of that abusive mother, and grows up seeking that reflection of love from abusive lovers, and perpetuates the spread of this abuse to others until it almost seems impossible for two people to discover love across their otherness and find one another. And just as the thought of it all leaves my hope all but smothered and makes my blood rage and my pulse race, just as the voice of vengeance begins to leave the voice of love replaced, suddenly I feel two lips press electricity into the back of my neck, and I turn to see her standing there. And I find refuge in the eyes of my love, eyes that always seem to speak directly to my heart. And I am reminded of the duality of love. I am reminded of a study I read once that found that if two people gaze into each other's eyes for long enough, their heart rates will start to synchronize. This is why love says it has always been both the cause of every war and the reason for every truce. Love says it is both the screams from the lovers' fight and the screams from their make-up sex. Love says the trick to humanity's job is to cut down on the fights, but keep up the make-up sex. Love says do not run from the fight, run to the fight to stop it. You must stop this fight because any fight is no good for us unless it is a fight for us, love says, because sometimes the what to fight for can be the why to not fight and the how to stop fighting, like the childless mother, card-carrying member of MAD, who invites the drunk driver that killed her child 5 years ago over for dinner so that she can look into his eyes and fight off the rage and look into his eyes and rip off her tears and look into his eyes and unclench her heart and look into his eyes until it's long enough for her to find forgiveness. And maybe that is all love is really saying. Come find me. Even when you have everything to lose, come find me in the open palm of your enemy until you discover an unfathomable friend in that sacred ceasefire of space between black and white, between white and Puerto Rican, between patriot and immigrant, Muslim and Montague, patriots and liberals and conservatives and Capulets and Crips and Jets and queers and vets, and maybe what we have to do to prevent fight the power, and we shall overcome, and si se puede, and hell no, we won't go, and I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Maybe what we have to do to prevent I can't breathe is to let love be the first act that takes our breath away. To stare into each other's eyes long enough to recognize our humanity and allow our heartbeats to sink. To silence the fight in us long enough to fight the silence in us until we, each of us, can finally hear what love says. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have to, I wish there was an audience here to all clap. That was,
I miss audiences.
yeah.
Yeah, I miss that connection.
but the ups and downs of the elation and the tribulation and the pain and the love and the laughing and the crying that goes through somebody who watches. How long was that? About 5 minutes?
Yeah, five and some change. It's you know, when you hear it with the music,
of emotions.
Oh my God! And when you hear it with the music, it's so incredibly powerful.
Oh, with the music.
Yeah, I suggest everybody go do a YouTube search for Sekou Andrews. Love Says. You'll check it out. But you know, that same level of performance, it's hard for clients to understand how that can be achieved with blood transfusions or cybersecurity, or you know what I mean? Like, there a lot of times clients are so like, well, no, that'll be our opening performance and then we'll get into the content. And I go, no, like the biggest challenge in my career with Poetic Voice has been trying to break that paradigm and get people to go, you no longer have to choose. I will deliver that level of performance and content and so forth, and yet it'll be relevant to diversity and inclusion, or to innovation, or to disruption, or to culture, or whatever it is. That's the biggest challenge that I have with people. But when the ones that get it, it's so gratifying, because I always say, like, you know this, like there's always the sort of innovative risk taker in the company that's going to their leadership and saying, you know, this is what we need to be doing, guys. This is what we need to be doing. And that person always comes to me and goes, you know, they're telling their leadership, don't worry, he's going to be great. He's going to be great. And then they turn to me and it's like, please be great. You know what I mean?
Not all of your stuff is that deep and has the amount of darkness that might have had in it.
Oh, no. I mean, that's particular to social justice. But I'm saying what I don't, so there's the way I would dissect your statement is to say all of my pieces are that deep, in the sense that I will find a way to bring those emotions out of you with innovation. I will find a way to bring those emotions.
And I've seen you do it.
Whatever, you know what I mean? So in this particular case, this was about social justice.
Right.
But this effect happens with every topic, you know?
And you couldn't have done a better job on the topic of social justice. I mean, if I ever have anybody ask me for somebody who can talk on that topic, or diversity or inclusion, I mean, what am I going to think of for that?
Like, this election season, like, these are the messages. What's funny about the story I told you about us releasing this is that when the String Theory and Optimist Studios came to me and said, hey, let's hold off on releasing this piece because of the pandemic, everybody's attention is focused on the pandemic. I said, yeah, I agree, let's do that. But I said, let's finish the editing, because there is going to be a moment in society where something happens and this piece is going to be what people need to hear, and we need to be ready. We had no idea it was going to be George Floyd. We actually thought it was going to be something related to the divisiveness of the elections.
Right.
So as people are booking speakers now to talk about the elections, sometimes it's like, we just want the person who used to be the campaign advisor for blah, blah, blah. They want somebody that's, you know, overtly political. Well, that's not me. But if there is a particular theme that people are looking for in terms of how to bring people together, how to have civic engagement, how to make sure that you're using your voice to impact change, well, that's where I live and thrive.
Mm-hmm. And when you have the topic of innovation, or you have the topic of leadership, you can weave elements of that into it, but you also go in these incredible other directions that are really coming from the clients. You're interviewing the client. It's not the client interviewing you, it's you interviewing the client.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that tell me that they were not prepared for my creative call. You know, they were used to that 15-minute call that they have with the speaker that's like, hey, here's what I'm going to talk about. Here's, you know, nice to meet you. And I end up asking all these probing questions that makes them go, wow, we never thought about that. We need to figure that out, you know, all of that. And then sometimes I've had one client that said, it was your creative call with me that sold me that you were the right person, because you made me learn so much about myself in your questions that I knew you were going to learn a lot about us that we hadn't thought about, you know?
Well, I'm sure you also have shown a lot of companies and organizations something about themselves that they didn't even think about, that they weren't even focused on, wasn't even their theme. And maybe I bet you've even changed the theme of conferences based on what you came up with in that phone call. They said, you know, we really need to bring this to the forefront, because
absolutely. I've had situations where people have been like, man, we should have made Sekou's we should have made T-shirts for Sekou's tagline, because everybody in the whole conference has been walking around saying that for the whole theme. They haven't been saying our theme.
What's an example of that tagline? Example of that?
I did something for HPE, Hewlett Packard, when they were splitting to have HP, and then they were having Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which was HPE, and I did an opening video that was shown on this huge screen, and then I came back, and so I did that to open the video, the conference. Then at the end of the conference, we started with the closing video, but then I surprised them and came out live, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to, I said, the whole point of this is to go somewhere that we haven't been. We can't do the same thing over. And then I kicked it open and ran out, and everybody was cheering. Well, in between the opening and the closing, the first piece was all about how sometimes you can add one thing to something that helps catalyze its process, like an enzyme. You can sprinkle enzymes on your food and it catalyzes the digestion, it catalyzes the fertilizing and so forth. And so I said with HP, you're adding that enzyme, E. And sometimes all you have to do is just add E, and that catalyzes where you want to go. Whole rest of the conference, everyone was saying, just add E, just add E.
Yeah. Wow. Just talking to you makes me so excited about you all over again, to remember not to forget. Sekou, the Sekou effect is strong and alive and real. And
virtual also. Like there's a lot of people that have a lot of preconceived notion. We're getting a lot of clients that are like, well, we don't want to waste Sekou on virtual because virtual is not going to be engaging, and we want to keep him, he's better at the live conference. And so we just started sending our clients the Twitter feed during virtual conferences, where people are like, this guy must be better virtually than live because this was amazing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and people are going like, this is the first time I've ever done a hit workout to a keynote speech. It got me so motivated. And that's financial services. That's not, that's not like, entrepreneurs and salespeople. That's like, cardiologists and financial services and like the stuffiest of the most conservative audiences. And the reason is because I'm always, like you said, I'm always speaking to the human being. I'm always trying to create a human experience out of the business content. Then I go back and I talk their talk. I always talk their talk.
Right.
I pride myself. I don't pride myself on inspiration. I'm an inspirational speaker. So to me, I better be inspirational. You know what I mean? Like that's the base level of my litmus test. For me, where I'm really popping my collar is authenticity. When I speak to cardiologists and afterwards they come up to me and go, so wait, you're not a doctor? Like that's where I'm patting myself on the shoulder and going, I never got up there and said, hey, I'm Dr. Sekou Andrews, but I spoke in a way that blurred the line between me and them so much that they started to see themselves in me and see me in them. And that's the power of storytelling and the power of poetic voice. So that's why I'm really always trying to achieve that human experience. 60-minute keynote, 90-minute keynote, training session, speaker training, like whatever it is, virtually live, I hold myself to the same standard. I don't ever sit back and go, well, it's just, you saw me right now on Zoom.
I was just going to say, you affected me pretty strongly there, pal. I had to hold back the tears.
Right. I never lower the standard. I always say the goal is, I don't care who you are going to be engaged and touched and moved, and you're going to be surprised at what you see in yourself that you didn't know was there.
Amen. I'm speechless. You said it all. I don't know what to say. I was going to ask you what your favorite gig was that you ever had. The one that was just, that one you talked about was fun, HPE, but I know there's a lot that you have to draw from. I know that you, in 2019, had a very, very good year and you spoke a ton.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, do you have one that sticks out, and maybe you're sharing it with us can also give us the insight into what it's like to have you?
So
I should ask this question to every speaker. It's the first time I've ever asked it.
That's right. The inaugural answer is here, people. Okay?
There we go. Rhyming is, that's up to you if you want to rhyme it. I'm just kidding.
Right. Since you clearly are trying to steal my rhyming job, I'll let you convert it into rhyme later. I would probably, God, man, there have been so many
Well, I'm
amazing
sure
gigs,
there's
but
one that's like a really huge
yeah,
stage and you pulled it off or something.
yeah. I mean, so I'm going to give you two because I
Okay.
straddle the entertainment world and the speaking world. That's the
Oh,
nature
good.
of Poetic Voice, and I live in both. So on the entertainment side, um, I did about 10 years ago. No, geez. Oh my God, hold on. I can't remember how many
Not
years
old.
ago. But several years ago, I did a voting tour. Norman Lear, TV filmmaker, legendary
Oh my God.
filmmaker,
Yeah.
Norman Lear, he purchased an original print of the Declaration of Independence. He wanted it to not be the only one sitting in an archive. He wanted it to tour and inspire people to have civic engagement. And so I, myself, and my partner, Steve Connell, initially, we toured for a year with the Declaration of Independence as our tour partner. And we traveled to inspire youth to vote. And then about 4 other poets and a beatbox and a DJ joined us. And we had this whole big show called Declare Yourself and toured that for a year,
Oh,
got registered 1 million youth to
great
vote and so
name.
forth.
Declare
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Declare Yourself. It was amazing. It was an amazing tour. It's also, again, what helped me to be able to be a voice for things like these elections in a way that, because that was a nonpartisan tour. So
Right.
that was Norman's charge, was you got to get people on their feet, but you can't tell them who to vote for or which proposition. And that was part of the challenge. And so I say that to say that at the very beginning of that tour, we started to become great friends with Norman, and he's become an amazing mentor and friend since then. But early in the tour, when it was just Steve and I, Norman invited us to an event. Norman has 2 twin daughters, and their godmother is Maya Angelou. Right. So Norman basically brought us so every 5 years or so, Oprah Winfrey would throw a party for Maya Angelou, to a birthday party. And so Norman brought us, Steve and I, as the surprise gift of poetry
No.
to Dr. Maya Angelou. No
No.
pressure, right?
No.
No pressure.
Santa Barbara?
This was in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Where she lived. And so we've got this, what was crazy is that we heard this, I'm just going to give you the fast forward story version. We heard that, Maya in her older age had become a little bit impatient. And sometimes there was a girl that had performed at one of the previous parties who just sang for way too long. And at one point Maya was like, hey, can we get her off? Like, why is it taking so long? And she was getting frustrated, right? So we were like, make sure you stay in your time. So Norman had a 15-minute speech. He did a 2-minute speech, and then he turned it over and said, here's my surprise gift to you. And we did a 13-minute set. That was my poem, Steve's poem, and then a group poem. Well, I'm 3 minutes into my poem, and all of a sudden Maya, who's sitting right in front of me,
Oh my God.
is going, stomping her cane, and she's going, looking around, and I'm going, oh crap, we're going too long. Like, Maya's gonna kick us off. This is horrible. Another minute later, I hear her going, yes, yes. And I realized, oh, she's getting into it. She's stomping her cane. She's screaming, yes, did you hear that? And she is loving it. And at the end of this 13-minute set, it ends with the last word. It was a piece about poetry, and it says, I will spit. And we said, I will. And Maya jumps up, and she jumps up without her cane. And the guys go and catch her, and she runs over to us, and she goes, spit! And she gives us this huge hug. And we look past her, and Oprah Winfrey's just sitting there, clenching the hands of the 2 guys next to her. Tears are streaming down her cheeks, and she's just got this amazed look. And we were like, I can die now.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was one of the most amazing sort of entertainment side nights. And then on the corporate, there's so many on the corporate side because I'm constantly surprising audiences and they don't see me coming. I think one of my favorite, and I'm sure I'm going to wake up tonight and go, oh, it was actually this one. But I think one of my favorite is, it was a presentation I did for a customer service tech company. And it's a presentation that I have called The Customer is Always Wife.
You should have started with this and then gone with the Maya.
And then gone to Maya. I know. I decided to go like, let's dazzle them with entertainment and then let's bring it home to what's relevant for you all. But so I did this piece called The Customer is Always Wife, where I basically, it's a customer service piece that compares the customer life cycle with the life cycle of a relationship, a personal relationship, like a marriage or something. And I always believe in creating a sense of wonderment and disruption at the beginning of a presentation,
Sure.
because it throws an audience off. They don't know what to do with me anyway, so I indulge that, right? So I start off in the audience, which I don't do all the time, but I started off in the audience for this one. They introduce me. The stage is empty. The music finally, plays, and then it's like, wah, wah, wah. And then I'm not up there. And finally, like, I'm walking up on my phone, and I'm like, I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry. Okay, look, I cannot talk about this right now. This is embarrassing, baby. I'm literally walking on the stage right now. Can I please go? I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'm hanging up. Gotta go. And I hang up, and I'm on stage now, on mic, and I'm going, I'm sorry, guys. That was so unprofessional. I have a having problem with my wife, and I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm here to talk about customer service and customer experience and customer experience. And then I basically go, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about customer experience. I want to talk about my relationship problems. This is a chance for me to just talk to like 1,000 of my closest friends with my relationship problems. I might not get invited back. I'm sorry if I get kicked off. And then I begin to just talk to them about what it's like when you get in the doghouse and you start off in this relationship and you want all this stuff. And next thing you know, I'm talking about
what they do.
The acquisition phase, but I'm talking about it when my wife and I were first dating, and I was acquiring her and she was acquiring me, and I'm using all of their language. I'm like, she expected sip service and I was more lip service. I gave her multi-generational contact. Omnidirectional challenge, and I'm doing all this stuff and they're listening to their language, but it's in the context of just dating my wife, courting my wife, getting married, then having problems, then going to that phase where you have kids and you get distant, and then it ends with her in the hospital and there's a breakdown. It's all fictional, right? And she has one of her parts that stops working and there's a breakdown, and you start thinking about what the next generation is. And I basically talk about my daughter coming in and telling me how my innovation was what taught her what love is. And I realized she's next generation, the literal next generation, and I start talking about next generation customer service, and their minds are blown, and they're like, this was the best thing ever. And the guy that hired me was like, you made me look like a hero to my leadership because we had the highest rated presentation ever. So like, initially, I'm battling with the client going, you got to give me more time. I know you think spoken word is only worth blank minutes. I'm battling with them going, I know this feels risky. I know this feels so different. So I love when, number one, the audience gets the reward of how did that happen? And number two, that person that was going, please be awesome, ends up looking like a hero to their leadership. That's like the win-win for me. And I love those times.
And I'm sure it happens. I know it happens all the time, man. You are just absolutely a fireball of energy and intellect and
thank you, man.
And knowledge and understanding and reflection and love. Yeah. So this has been so great. All I can say to you is thank you so much for sharing all of this with me. I would love to obviously talk to you for hours.
I know, right?
Hang out all day. We don't ever hang out. We live in the same city. We got to do that again soon. You have been here once. Man, this has been awesome. And I know everybody's going to really get to know you really well and understand you as well as anybody can after this conversation. So that was the purpose of it. And
yeah,
thank you so much.
I hope so. I hope you guys will reach out. Please make sure you join my tribe. Follow me on social media and join my tribe at SekouAndrews.com. And I'm doing a lot of things that are relevant to this season that our industry is in. The one thing I want to leave you guys with is that it's just the importance of remembering that the live events are canceled, the gatherings are canceled, but the inspiration is not canceled. Right. And this is what I've been telling. This is what I started off when we first pivoted. I told all of my clients, I'm working on a book about the power of inspiration. And I always say, like, no matter what business you are in the inspiration business. And for us in the meeting industry, that's true more than ever. Like the need for people to be inspired is incredibly powerful. So we just have to start innovating the workarounds for how to keep delivering inspiration. Live events, we're bringing people together, but for the purpose of creating togetherness. And we can still create the togetherness. We can still inspire the productivity and the morale and the resilience and the all of those cultural elements that are needed for a company. That's on us. And so I challenge and charge all of you with that, the same way I'm charging all of us to remember inspiration is not canceled.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to help you guys. Happy to help you in any ways that I can with that.
We're in a good, you make me feel good about the business that we're in, because we are here to help people with that and remind them of that right now.
That's right.
Oh, we canceled everything until next year. Why?
No, it can't be. It can't be.
Don't cancel everything until next year, because this year we need it. And early next year, we need it to set off the year on a good foot.
That's right.
You know? So, wow, thank you for all of this, man. You enlightened and reminded me about a lot of things. And it's always so much fun hearing you, watching you, and now hanging out and talking with you. So again, thank you so much for coming on Virtually Speaking, Sekou. You are the man.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, now. Later.
Take care.